The information I'm going to uncover in this video is naturally going to increase and strengthen your faith in a super amazing way because it turns out the Bible predicted something that's happening right before our eyes over 2,000 years ago, right around 2,000 years ago. It predicted what's going on the geopolitical stage here in the US, and it has to do with who is running the show. Now, I talked about this in a video about 2 weeks ago, and this is kind of sort of a part two to that video, but not really. But I do want to recap some main ideas, specifically about Trump. And no, I did not predict that he was going to win the election. I got a lot of hate in the comments of that last video. It was hilarious. I predicted someone else was going to win the election, regardless of left or right, because there's a specific government, there's a specific entity that's running the show. And I'm going to shed light on that because it has to do with Trump's obsession with Kabbalah, which if you don't understand what Kabbalah is, I'm going to get into that today. If you recall, Trump used to have a perfect replica of the Ark of the Covenant in his estate in Mar-a-Lago in Florida. And I talked about this last video. Go check that out for, a deeper dive into that. And I was speculating about it, and a lot of people have speculated about it because it's so strange. Well, it turns out that Trump, even though he talks about how, for example, in this Lex Friedman podcast, he's not really that religious. I mean, if you listen to this interview, he said, as long as you're a good person, you're going to make it to heaven. Just be a good person. I think we should have more religion in the United States. He's very universalist. He doesn't really have a hard stance on a whole lot, at least. That's his public persona, right? That's his avatar. That's his meme. Like, religion. We need more religion. Be good. But there's far more to the story. And what I didn't understand myself, the last video that I didn't fully dive into what was going on with the Ark of the Covenant, because I showed you that, yes, it is in Israel. There's pictures of it in Jerusalem. And there's an article that I came across, I've been wanting to talk about this, from the Jewish News Syndicate, talking about how, yes, the Ark of the Covenant is now, this replica, is now inside of Jerusalem. This is what this article is entitled, "With Eyes on Winning War, Building Third Jewish Temple, Ark Replica Shown in Jerusalem." So this is from October 21st. And when it first happened, it wasn't on my radar. I just didn't see this stuff going on. It wasn't until after the fact. I mean, we're almost at the tail end of November now, getting into December. And apparently it was unveiled right around Sukkot, the Jewish Sukkot, because the real Sukkot was, earlier back in September, but Jewish Sukkot happened in October. And this is what this article says: "A replica of the Ark of the Covenant, painstakingly constructed," its creators say, "to the Torah specifications of the sacred vessel that was in the first temple's central fixture, was displayed in Jerusalem on Sunday evening during the intermediate days of the Sukkot holiday." This article goes on to say the Ark described in the Torah, which housed the Ten Commandments tablets, among other holy objects, was hidden after the destruction of the first temple, per rabbinic tradition. At Jerusalem's King David Hotel, the replica shown in the hotel's sukkah contained a refurbished Torah scroll, which survived the Holocaust, from Thessalonica, Greece. So, they even put a Torah scroll inside this thing. There's some interesting things that are said in this article. They said it took 17 volunteers who live in several countries 3.5 years to build the replica Ark, which is made out of donated gold. Okay, who donated it? That's super suspicious right away, right? And some 3 tons of Egyptian acacia, according to Jake, the project's chief architect, who prefers to remain anonymous, and Louis Topper, its principal financier. And there it is, of course, the replica in the King David Hotel in Jerusalem. So now this thing is in the headquarters of Mystery Babylon, as I always talk about. And one thing that they do mention, they even admit it, is that the replica has already visited Mar-a-Lago, the Palm Beach, Florida home of former President Donald Trump, the Republican presidential nominee. So they admit, yes, this was in Mar-a-Lago. So this is confirmed, right? I mean, we didn't need this. You could already go back to these photos here on X. You could see, I'm not sure who that woman is, James O'Keefe, posing in front of it. So he pretends that he's not very religious on podcasts like Lex Friedman. Yeah, be a good person. And so this is highly suspicious. Now, here's what I'll say. Here's one of those scriptures to keep an eye on, to pay attention to. Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 14. Return, O backsliding children, says the Lord, for I am married to you. I will take you, one from a city and two from a family, and I will bring you to Zion. Okay, this has not happened yet, and I'm going to show you exactly why as we continue reading this. And I will give you shepherds according to my heart, who will feed you with knowledge and understanding. Now check this out, Jeremiah 3:16. It shall come to pass, when you are multiplied and increased in the land in those days, says the Lord, that they will say no more, the ark of the covenant of the Lord. Pay attention to that, right? It shall not come to mind, nor shall they remember it, nor shall they visit it, nor shall it be made anymore. Now, here's why you know this is a future event. This is a future prophecy that has not happened yet. The very next verse tells you, at that time, in the last days, at the end of time, Jerusalem shall be called the throne of Yehovah, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, the Lord. And all nations shall be gathered to it, to the name of Yehovah, the Lord, to Jerusalem. No more shall they follow the evil dictates, right? The dictates of their evil hearts. This has absolutely not happened yet, right? All the nations aren't gathered to Jerusalem to seek the one true God, and obviously Yeshua in the flesh, seated, enthroned in Jerusalem. This is totally last days talk, right? And it even says, in those days the house of Judah shall walk with the house of Israel. So we have mention of the two houses. They're going to come together out of the land of the north to the land I have given them as an inheritance to your fathers, okay? None of this has happened. Absolutely none of this. We're still in the scattering period. And this is just all future. But what the very specific thing is that you need to pay attention to is like the Ark of the Covenant, the Ark of the Covenant. And he is saying when Jesus comes back to rule and reign, when the throne of God is established in Jerusalem, all nations are coming to it, this won't even come to mind. It's not even going to be made anymore. So what that tells me, and what that should be telling you, is perhaps this ark, this replica that was made, and it's not going to be made anymore when God comes back to rule and reign physically on the earth. He's ruling and reigning right now in the heavenlies. But this might play a bigger role than even I had considered or thought about. I think this might actually play a bigger role. And by the way, I present the fact that yes, the third Jewish temple is being propped up to play a specific role. And I talk about the different outcomes of what to expect in chapter 9 of Bible Prophecy Secrets. You can download it for free, link down below. And I talk about what to expect with a rebuilt Jewish temple in Israel. And there's a lot of scenarios to consider there, okay? A lot of things to think about. But what I want to talk about is Trump's real religion and how this all connects to very specific passages of Scripture that correctly predicted exactly what's going on 2,000 years ago. I want to tie it all in. In his book, this was released a while ago, I believe it is from 2004, Trump, The Way to the Top, the best business advice I ever received. There are some interesting things that are discussed in here, okay? I'm going to open it up for you. We're going to go to a specific page where he talks about his Kabbalah teacher. And this is why I made such a big deal with the thumbnail and everything talking about Kabbalah. Yes, he is obsessed with Kabbalah, and there's a reason for that. This is what Trump says here on page 188 of The Way to the Top. One day, when my Kabbalah teacher, Eitan Yardeni, asked how I was doing, I told him I needed a break. I was thoroughly exhausted, overwhelmed, and overworked. Eitan then said, "Do you know what you should do now?" I thought he was going to encourage me to take some time off, but instead he replied, "No, go work harder. Be careful what you ask for because you may get it." Eitan was right. If I ask God for a break, God may hear me, and I may get one, a long one. I took his advice to heart and started to work even harder. That's not a casual relationship, right? Well, when you look and see who is Eitan Yardeni from Kabbalah.com, Eitan is an ordained rabbi who studied personally with Rav Berg, and he has played a major role in the globalization of Kabbalah. So he's been highly influential in that movement. If you don't know who Philip Berg is, Rav Berg, he died in 2013, but he basically popularized Kabbalah in the United States, but all over the world. And I'm going to show you evidence of that in just a moment. So you might be thinking, okay, so what is Kabbalah exactly? If you know, right? There's some pretty deep stuff with Kabbalah. I don't in any way, shape, or form advocate Kabbalah. It's demonic, and I'm going to show you exactly what is going on with this. Now, this is from chapter 11 of Bible Prophecy Secrets, all right? I'm just going to pull this up real quick. The definition of Kabbalah varies depending on the sect or society describing it. Okay, there's different ways of looking at it. The overarching theme of the Kabbalah is that it is a secret interpretation of the Hebrew scriptures, or secret Torah, that with its supernatural knowledge makes it possible for people to access the power of God, thereby transforming themselves and the world around them. Now, if you notice, there's a little citation there. That is actually a reference from this book right here from Walter Martin, The Kingdom of the Occult. They do a really good job in this, breaking down the different types of mystical religions out there. This one's obviously Jewish Eastern mysticism, but it has its origins in Egypt, specifically with the Essenes, which they don't really go deep into it like that in that book. But I do, which is why, again, I encourage you to get Bible Prophecy Secrets. I go really deep into this stuff to show you what is the worldview of the ruling class, what is really going on. And depending on the lineage of its teachings, Kabbalah, as I say here, can be divided into three main categories: Judaic, Hermetic, or Hollywood Kabbalah. Now, the one easy way to tell if someone's practicing Hollywood Kabbalah is when you see this. This is the red string talisman of Kabbalah. They wear it on the wrist. And basically, practitioners of Kabbalah wear this because it's said to repel demons, misfortune. It's supposed to take away evil from your third eye, right? All this mystical, weird, nonsensical, demonic stuff. But what's interesting is you see a lot of leaders wearing this red bracelet. Here's Vladimir Putin wearing the red talisman bracelet of Kabbalah. Tucker Carlson has been pictured with this on Fox News, wearing it right underneath his suit coat, under his sleeve there. You see the red string. Leonardo DiCaprio. I could go on and on, guys. Madonna. So many of these celebrities, these inner circle people, are wearing this. And this particular photo is from Vanity Fair, and the whole purpose, the whole title of the article was, "No, Leonardo DiCaprio doesn't practice Kabbalah. Look the other way. Stop making all these theories. Stop speculating." There's no speculation here. When you're wearing this thing in publicly wearing this red string talisman of Kabbalah that literally all these rich and famous and powerful men are wearing, and people, okay, this is very suspicious. And if you look at, okay, what is Kabbalah exactly? Practical Kabbalah is a form of magic practice, okay? It uses magic. Some people refer to it as white magic. I have met practitioners of Kabbalah that consider themselves white witches. This is just, it just goes hand in hand. Peanut butter and jelly. Kabbalah, witchcraft, magic, using spells, enchantments. It's a secret interpretation of our Bibles, right? That's really weird, right? I just showed you what it looks like from Jeremiah chapter 3. It's the evil dictates of the heart. That's what these people are into. That's what Kabbalah is. And according to this wiki article here, it includes meditative techniques, but no, this includes gematria, different studies of numerology, different enchantments, spells, ways to manipulate. And what the Bible referred to this as in Deuteronomy chapter 18 is witchcraft, which is forbidden, absolutely 100% forbidden. This is what it says in Deuteronomy 18:9. Deuteronomy 18:9, "When you come into the land which the Lord your God is giving you, you shall not learn to follow the abominations of those nations. There shall not be found among you anyone who makes his son or his daughter pass through the fire, or one who practices witchcraft, or a soothsayer, or one who interprets omens, or a sorcerer, one who conjures up spells, or a medium, or a spiritist, or one who calls up the dead. For all who do these things are an abomination." That just means disgusting, detestable, like filthy. It's gross to God. That's his wording, not mine, right? I'm just reading the Bible right here. Wicked, filthy, abomination to the Lord. And because of these abominations, the Lord your God drives them out from before you. You shall be blameless before the Lord your God. Now, of course, if a Kabbalah practitioner were to read the Bible, this Hebrew Bible, they would probably look at this and be like, oh, it's just an allegory or a metaphor for someone who's not trained, the uninitiated, who don't really understand Kabbalah. Because, see, most people think that Kabbalah is, I don't know, a book. but or a series of books, but actually it's not books. It's mystical teachings passed on from oral tradition that predate Israel back to Egypt, but specifically it became popularized with King Solomon. And King Solomon, when he descended into witchcraft because of all his foreign wives, he was the one that popularized the Kabbalah and the mystical teachings of it and all of that. Now, in modern times, so Rav Berg, he was actually a former insurance salesman, like life insurance, I think is what he did. And after he had like an affair, right? He married his ex-secretary after leaving his wife and 8 children, changed his name. So his real name is Shraga Fievel Gruberger. That's his real name, okay? But Rav Berg or Philip Berg, he changed his name to that and then started doing Kabbalah after leaving his wife and 8 children, started up Hollywood Kabbalah, and everybody just loved it, and he became like the guru of Kabbalah in the United States and all over the world. So if you didn't know who Philip Rav Berg was, that's who he is. All right, so that's the progenitor of all this fake mystical witchcraft garbage. And you literally have I-10 Yardeni talking with Trump in his book, talking about how much they love Kabbalah. And you already know this, but Trump said, oh, no one is more pro-Israel than I am. 1948 Israel, right? No one is more pro-Israel than I am. Well, there's a specific passage of scripture that told you this was going to happen in the last days. And it's Revelation chapter 2, verse 9. I know your works, tribulation and poverty, but you are rich. I know the blasphemy of those who say they are the Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. That's Revelation chapter 2, verse 9. Revelation chapter 3, verse 9. Indeed, I will make those of the synagogue of Satan who say they are Jews and are not, but lie. Indeed, I will make them come and worship before your feet and to know that I have loved you. So there's this synagogue of Satan that's running around, running the show. They say they are Jewish, and they are not. They're lying. Why? Because Romans tells you, and Galatians tells you, so many places in the New Testament, especially Paul's writings, tell you that a Jew is not one outwardly, neither is circumcision of the flesh, but circumcision is of the heart. So someone who's a Jew is someone who actually believes in Jesus Christ and is born again. That is a true Jew. So anybody who says they're a Jew and they deny the Messiah, they reject the real Bible, and they go after a mystical interpretation of it handed down by oral tradition through a bunch of rabbis, including a former insurance salesman, and they use that as their foundation for manipulating the world around them and practicing what they say is Kabbalah to follow their God. I'm going to show you exactly who that is in a moment. I'm going to show you Trump's true religion in a moment. Well, that's synagogue of Satan. That's not someone who's a real Jew. A real Jew is somebody who's born again, who believes in Jesus Christ, who's baptized by the Holy Spirit. Anton LaVey. This is something that I recently discovered. It absolutely blew my mind. His real name is not even Anton LaVey. Howard Stanton LaVey is his true name. And that's what you see, like with Rav Berg. That's not his real name, right? Shraga Fievel. His real name is something different. You'll find this in this community of the synagogue of Satan over and over and over again. It's a telltale sign. They never go by their real names. So something to pay attention to. So Howard, who a lot of people understand to be Anton, wrote the Satanic Bible, but did he? Now, before I get into that, because I'm going to show you some stuff from his own words, I'm going to show you The Secret Life of a Satanist, the authorized biography, the official stamp of approval biography. This has the Church of Satan's blessing on it and what they have to say. In chapter 5, of course, in September 1949, Anton LaVey enrolled in San Francisco City College as a criminology major and set about establishing himself as a respectable student. After classes, Anton made money the best way he knew, playing music. Through friends, he became involved with militant Israeli groups. Interesting. What did we just read in our Bible, right? Okay, it's going to get more interesting than this. Some of which were running guns to the newly emerged nation. Organizations with names like Betar, Hashimer, Hatzair, Poal, Zion, the Stern Gang, Irgun, some of which had already been likened to the Nazis due to their ferocious tactics. Interesting choice of words, right? Paradoxically, at this time, LaVey was playing piano for reunions of the veterans of the Abraham Lincoln Brigade, those Americans whose idealism led them to Spain in the 30s to fight for what they thought right, though irrevocably branded as leftist. It was here Anton met men like Dalton Trumbo and Alva Bessie, two of the most notorious members of the Hollywood 10. Bessie worked lights at the gatherings, unable to find work anywhere else. Anton's knowledge that he was being filmed by the FBI as he walked into the meeting halls didn't seem to deter him. Anton saw that the Red Scare was not far removed from the church-induced hysteria, which had caused thousands to be burned at the stake as witches and sorcerers, simply because they threatened the wrong people. His sympathy for groups labeled commies by prevailing conditions was undisguised. So he was a communist sympathizer. He was helping with the creation of Israel. Okay, this is getting interesting, right? I talk about this in my book, by the way. All right, here's where it gets really, really interesting. LaVey recalls, during this whole scenario, being in San Francisco, etc., the whole thing was very much like the escapades in old movies like The Woman on the Pier 13. There were two main rendezvous spots in San Francisco, a Jewish community center and a workers' collective downtown, where fellows would come in off the boat and went right down to meet contacts in the library of one of these places. I would be hired to play for a fashion show or a variety show. Then I'd get through and go right down to the docks where crates of guns were being loaded onto ships to Israel. Many of the guns were ones that had been liberated during the war by American soldiers and were slated as DWAT, deactivated war trophies, but before they had a chance to be officially deactivated, they were cosmolined up and sent to Israel. They'd wind up in crate-marked menorahs or something, mostly German MP40s and P38s, but even Japanese Nambos, anything, so I'm assuming it's anything they could get their hands on. So basically, submachine guns, labeled in crates for religious purposes, menorahs. So these are just menorahs, nothing to see here. Afterwards, I'd get letters of praise from the fashion show organizers saying how much I'd added to their presentation. Little did they know what I'd been doing after their show. So, do you understand what's going on here? Anton was big into music. It would be an entire front for his true activities and his true operations, because behind the scenes, he was heavily involved with the creation and the shipping of weapons to Israel. Now, it had been a nation already, right? 1948, 1949, he's involved shipping weapons over there because, the newly formed nation was immediately at war, and the weapons, the shipments of weapons had already been happening way before this. But it's just very fascinating, is it not, that Anton LaVey was involved with making sure that 1948 Israel, right, God's blessed and chosen holy nation, was getting their guns from the guy who allegedly wrote the Satanic Bible, right? Okay, are you getting what I'm getting here? Okay, those Zionist gun runners, this is what it says next, could best be called ideological mercenaries. They had a sense of, well, what I'm doing may not make a hell of a lot of a difference, but at least I'm doing what I know best. Many seemed more concerned about refining and perfecting innovative weapons technology they were experimenting with than who their new relay or explosive was blowing up, though. Okay, so out of everything I've been reading so far, what I'm about to show you next, I know it seems a little long, but this is the most important part of this whole entire chapter, chapter 5, for what we're talking about, all right? This is what Anton LaVey, Howard, says around what happened around this time. I felt a culmination of that whole episode in my life many years later. Okay? So it's like his life's calling, right? He was helping get the weapons over there to Israel. And it all just, he had an epiphany moment, like, oh, this is my life's calling. Shortly after the Satanic Bible came out. So the Satanic Bible came out in 1969. And this is what he says. So around that time in the 60s, I met with Asaph Dayan, actor son of Israel's legendary defense minister Moshe Dayan, and he was glowing about the Satanic Bible, the book, agreed with everything in it. He said it was exactly the philosophy they practiced, were forced to practice in modern Israel. He extended an invitation for me to stay at his family home in Tel Aviv whenever I wished. So let me I mean, do you see the gravity of what's being said here? Again, I didn't write this. This is the official biography of Anton LaVey. He wrote the Satanic Bible, but Asaph Dayan, the son of the defense minister of Israel, Moshe Dayan, said, "Oh yeah, dude, we've been practicing this for a while. Yeah, like, what took you so long? Yeah, we were forced to practice this philosophy of the Satanic Bible in modern Israel. Yeah, what took you so long to write it, man? Yeah, we've known about all this. Hey, come stay at my house in Tel Aviv. We'll have a good old seance. We'll have a good old necromancy session." Asaph Dayan, as I just saw, he was the son, right, of Moshe. We'll talk about Moshe in a second. Israeli film director, actor, screenwriter, producer. And he basically admitted that they already had a similar manual. They already had a similar framework that they were using in Israel during the time of the creation of the state. Like, oh yeah, we were practicing this day in and day out, bro. What took you so long? Moshe Dayan, again, Asaph, when he was told this and they interacted together, Anton and Asaph, you have to understand this is directly from the top. I mean, this is as close to getting on the inner circle and understanding the philosophy of what's really going on as you can get. Moshe Dayan was the Israeli military leader and politician, but he was like the defense minister of the early days of Israel. Like, this guy was the commander. He was the one running and calling the shots during the 1948 Arab-Israel War. According to Resolution 1812 in 1948, the UN recognized Jewish and Palestinian states, and immediately there was an invasion from Arab nations to destroy Israel. And everybody's been like, oh, it was so miraculous. Oh, it was God's blessing. It's God's chosen people. This is so cool. Oh, we're seeing Bible prophecy. And I'm telling you, I'm here to remind you once again, who was funding them? Who was giving them weapons? Who was giving them the money? Oh, by the way, I talk about all these things in Bible Prophecy Secrets. I show you exactly where the money came from. I show you whose hands were in it, the banking system that enabled it. I show you everything. And this is why Overcome Babylon exists, because most of the ministers, pastors, leaders, pulpits, churches, seminaries are saying things that are laced with deception, totally immersed in Babylon, fooled, hoodwinked by all this, and you and I together, we're going to rise above all this noise. Because what it all boils down to is that just like Anton LaVey, who hung out with the defense minister of Israel and his son Asaph back in the day, until now, it's the same system that has been running the show. Why don't people take the words of Jesus Christ more seriously? And he said in Revelation chapter 2, verse 9, I know the blasphemy of those who say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Why can't people understand this? There's a spiritual blindness. There's a spiritual darkness. Please share this video because people need to understand who the synagogue of Satan is. And yes, that is why Trump was so heavily involved with the Ark of the Covenant. That's why he housed it at his place, because Kabbalah is all about, it is the most pure form of satanic practice that you could possibly find. And their methods, their philosophy, their principles even predate Anton LaVey. Now, of course, if you're educated on the subject, you'll understand that there are multiple satanic Bibles. Yes, Anton LaVey wrote the one that was popularized over there in the West Coast, and then it spread across everywhere, right, Virginia. But Aleister Crowley also wrote the Book of the Law. He predated Anton LaVey, and the Anton LaVey came from that. But what these guys really are, whether it's Aleister Crowley, who wrote Magic, who wrote the Book of the Law, he wrote all these different books, a lot of books actually. One of them, he said, was dictated by Satan himself. Aleister Crowley and Anton LaVey and all these guys, what they really are is they're all spin-offs and derivations of the oral secret Torah, or the secret teachings of the Kabbalah. That's really what it is. The purest form of satanic practice is Kabbalism. And so that is why one of the principles, it's laid out in a lot of their works, you don't actually tell people what you're all about. Right? You rule through deception. You tell, oh yeah, just be a good person, Trump says on Lex Friedman's podcast. When he's asked about religion and where he's going to go when he dies, oh, you're just be a good person, you'll go to heaven. They never actually tell you what they're all about, but you can see it in their works. You can see what they're up to. And that is why this channel exists. Overcome Babylon with me. I'm your brother Abraham. As always, God bless you and rise above this crooked and perverse generation, man. It's only going to get crazier. The deception's only going to get thicker. And a lot of people are being swallowed up into thinking that there's going to be some hope and change, just like with Obama. Now they're saying, oh, hope and change with Trump. Oh, at least he's a Christian man with godly values. And then you got false prophets with Kundalini spirits promoting and elevating him even more. On top of that, it's not going to end well for these people, man. But you don't have to be like everybody else. You don't have to be like the mainstream. You can exit this disease, this entrapment of the mind, this cage, this prison called Zionism. God bless you. I'll catch you next time.